Well, here we are inside a hotel room in Melbourne. It's a little bit of a different podcasting venue.
You make it sound very dodgy.
It is a little bit dodgy. I may have found this guy off the street and be like, hey, I need to record an episode. You look like you're into cars. You know what? This will do. I need to feed the people with content.
Random strangers who just happen to like cars. It's quite coincidental, I suppose, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, that's somehow how I've met a lot of my friends. But for those who are at home and have no idea who the hell I'm talking to, I'd like to introduce Mr. Paul Webb, also known as Webby On Cars. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and finally get to see what you do behind the microphone.
Yeah, at the moment you're just staring at a lot of microphones, cables, a bit of a dog's breakfast of cabling and all.
That's okay. What people can't see, they can't worry about, I suppose, can they?
Yes, until you describe it to them.
Exactly. Like, that spoils the illusion a bit.
It does a little bit, eh?
But that's all good. All good. We'll carry on.
100%. So let's first move into how we actually met. So,
okay. Yep, that's a good starting point.
Yeah, for sure. It was not on the street randomly.
It wasn't, thankfully, because that would look very suspicious.
100%. But yeah, we met at a drive day for a charity, or a not-for-profit charity called Drive Against Depression.
Yes, yep.
I can't remember the exact year. I just do remember that I think we just had a chat. I think you actually approached me and noticed that I had a Type R, and that's how we got talking.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah, 100%. And then we just got talking on Facebook, and eventually we got back in touch at some point. We need to confirm on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, we kind of spoke about this earlier when we were having dinner. I think it was probably 2019. I'd have to look back at the videos on the channel and confirm that, but I think it was 20. I'm sure it was pre-COVID.
You know what?
Let's actually check.
Yeah, that's a good thing about YouTube and having the actual date the video was uploaded.
It is. Yeah.
So for those playing at home, we're just going to take a brief intermission to get our facts straight, because there's nothing worse than getting your facts wrong on a podcast.
Because someone's bound to come up and say, "No, it wasn't. It was this date." Happens to me a lot on videos when you say something. And then in the comments, people will just say, "No, you've got that wrong, and it's this and that." And you think, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I mean, everyone's an armchair expert these days, right?
So not just. But I think that's because on the internet, there's so much information out there now that it's easy to go and get that information. And yeah, there's definitely people out there that they just want to be right, regardless or not that's a good thing or not. I don't know, but
yeah.
It's what we were saying earlier about the keyboard warriors.
Yes.
They're kind of just out there just to sort of poke fun and cause a bit of havoc, I suppose.
You got to wonder, though, is it because they don't have the courage to try and do something like start a YouTube channel, start a podcast themselves? I
think it could be. I definitely think it could be, because, as you and I both know, it takes a bit of guts to either get in front of a camera or, start up a podcast. And when you look, you watch a video or you listen to a podcast, and the person behind the camera or the microphone makes it look and sound really easy. But actually, when you do it yourself, you then realise how difficult it is.
Yes.
Then you suddenly realise, actually, it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, 100%. It's a bit of a leap of faith, especially when you first start and you don't really have much to, let's say, guide you. You've got to do everything yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I'm getting towards finding this video somewhere.
This is, a subtle plug to how many videos you've created.
Yeah, no, it's not actually. Here we are. So it says 4 years ago, so it would have been 2020 actually.
Yep.
Actually, do you know what? When we were talking about the whole where we filmed at the RACV in Hillsville, I do remember it being very quiet and there are not many people there.
Yes.
So yeah, actually 25th of March 2020.
Huh.
That wasn't actually long after COVID started then. Or it might have been just at the very start and it really hadn't taken off.
Yeah, I think it potentially might have been the week that I came back from WA for a friend's wedding, and it was just that brief period before everything went to shit.
Yeah.
You could people were knowing that COVID was a thing, it was all in the news on foreign countries and whatnot, and then Yeah, I think they mentioned that lockdowns could be happening, and I was like, you know what, I need maybe like to get out and we actually do that car review or
Yeah. Yeah, geez Christ, 4 years ago. Bloody hell.
It's flown by.
And it's like, there's lots of different things going on there, because that's how long we've known each other, maybe sort of 4 or 5 years. And then you sit back and think, geez, that was 4 years ago. And it's like, where did that 4 years just go?
Yep.
Geez, yeah, 4 years. It's
flown by.
It has flown by, and it's, for both of us, kind of, you've started doing the podcast. I do a little bit more on the YouTube channel now, and you kind of forget what you were doing 4 years ago as to where you are now, and
it's so easy to lose track of time
and how things have evolved. So yeah, that's quite interesting to think that was 4 years ago.
100%.
But yeah, we met on a Drive Against Depression charity drive day, didn't we?
Yeah, so not so subtle plug there to the guys at the Drive Against Depression sort of not-for-profit charity. Sarah and Adam done an excellent job with that event. So I would recommend you actually check out the website to see what it's about. But to summarize it, you can correct me if I'm wrong here or from your take of things. It's effectively just a drive day with a bit of a theme around mental health. So one of the cool things is they have a bit of a discussion at the start of the drive day. I'd say a much more mature audience as well, which is good. A lot of people tend to be just more switched on and conscious, emotionally aware.
There's definitely sort of the older demographic, I suppose. But you are starting to see younger people come along.
Nice.
I think because nowadays mental wellness and mental health is a much more accepted thing to talk about. So yeah, more and more people are sort of opening up about, if they've got sort of like, not issues as such, I don't know how to use that word, but they're struggling or whatever. So it's not something you have to hide anymore, because lots and more people are sort of more open to those sort of discussions.
Yep.
So you're starting to see more and more younger people come along. Or, adults might bring their kids, or grandparents bring grandchildren, what have you.
Yeah.
And I guess, now that they've been around for a few years, the name's getting out there a bit more. Their sort of reach is getting further afield as well now. So, they do a fantastic job. I think as we discussed when I was having dinner, I've been going to their drives for, nearly 6 years now.
Yeah.
And it's just a great community. It's obviously how we met. You sort of have this whole sort of bond of cars, of, discussing mental health, but then you sort of make good friends from it too.
Yes.
Which is a good sort of outcome, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about the car scene in particular, is like it's breaking down a barrier to entry almost to getting to know someone. Because if you've got a common interest or a hobby, I mean, that's one of the first things you can talk about. And then, you get to know them as a person afterwards, and you can potentially stay in touch. You get really good mates as a result of it. And that's what I like about having those mutual hobbies with people and going to events like this.
Absolutely. It's not just obviously those sort of things. It's your cars and coffee and bits and pieces like that, and just general, you did sort of different car club events, and after a little while you start seeing the same faces, and then you sort of start talking, and that's where you get all your connections from, isn't it?
Yes, 100%.
You're probably the same. You've met people from those sort of events that you probably would have never met otherwise.
100%.
And then you've made some really good connections for various different reasons.
Yep.
And then you sort of your sort of network of friends and contacts branches out, and
it just keeps growing.
It does. It just keeps growing and growing, and it's anybody who's into cars will understand that, because it's just such a leveler. You get the whole. Someone might come along in an old Peugeot 205 GTI. Someone rocks up in a 911 GT3 RS. And the bloke in the Porsche is like, I remember when I used to have one of those, back when I was like 20-something.
Yep.
But the guy in the Peugeot is that 20-something person.
Who's aspiring to have a 911.
Looks at the guy in the 911, it's like, I'd love to have one of those one day.
Yeah.
And it's just that mutual kind of understanding and respect for each other. It kind of doesn't matter what you drive.
100%.
There's someone out there will show the appreciation for whatever you're driving.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between, I guess, genuine car people and the people that are kind of just like collecting cars for, the sake of an investment or whatever.
Yeah, to say they've got one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very different sort of mentality and whatnot. But 100%, I like that you said that it's a leveler in a sense of like, you can get so many people from different walks of life and whatnot could be completely into different types of cars as well, like your muscle, your JDM, etc. But if there is a sense of just mutual respect, I think that's what the car scene sometimes lacks, but also when you find it, it's really cool to have, like, hold on to. And that's where I think Drive Against Depression days are pretty good in having that sort of level of respect.
Absolutely. You can say my work, this isn't a plug. We're just about to hold our fourth, probably by the time you release this podcast, had our fourth drive day with Drive Against Depression. And, I work at a Ford dealership, which I'm sure we'll get to at some stage in the conversation.
He's like, not so subtle plug.
Yeah,
plug.
I'm not saying where I work, so. But I work at a Ford dealership, and, on our drive days, it's not a case of, you have to drive a Ford to be included. So you drive whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about, again, Drive Against Depression. It's kind of a leveler of, you sometimes see people bring along an old classic car or, a newer car, and everybody's got a love for those two different models that come along. And, you sort of people see the old classic car and they're, I remember I had one of those when I was growing up, or my granddad had one, or, and it was our family car when I was a kid, that type of thing. Versus obviously all the new stuff that, everybody can see and sort of get access to on the internet.
Yeah, definitely.
But obviously there's the other side of it of, sort of the conversations around mental health and that sort of thing. So, which is obviously very important. And, like you say, they do a fantastic job. And then now sort of reaching out from Melbourne and going all around Australia by what I can see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think one of the first things people were asking me when I started this podcast with Justin, my co-host, who's probably back in WA, maybe just finishing work at this point, or in bed. Poor guy's just got a young kid and kind of adjusting to it.
Okay.
So, I think he's going through the wars at points around trying to like maintain sleep and all that. But
been there, done that.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's like, how do cars and mental health mix? That's the question I was getting a lot. And most people I completely understand, like, how on earth do they mix? Do they even mix? And then you've got, there's just avenues out there, I think. Facebook groups are good too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those, for car people, their first love is obviously their passion for cars. And it's, you can just go along, you can speak to anybody and you can have conversations about whatever car is standing in front of you. And there'll be stories that each of you can tell as to why that car then means something to you. And you're not necessarily gathered in a circle talking about mental health, but subconsciously you're kind of, it's almost like a weight's come off your shoulder because you found a friend who has a passion that's similar to yours, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, it does.
So you're not sort of all standing around, sitting there sort of, I guess the reason why you're there because of the mental health side of things is just kind of like you're going for the day where, there's obviously the element of the mental health side of things because they have some fantastic, guest speakers like Ollie Bridge.
Yep.
That come along and obviously, give support and that type of thing. But it's kind of done in a very subtle way. Yeah. Which I think is fantastic, and they've done that really well. Because, some people are sort of, there's still that little bit of a stigma to them to talk about mental health because they see it as a weakness. Whereas in fact, it's obviously, if you do speak out, it's kind of probably the strongest thing you can do.
Yes.
To actually sort of say, look, I need help, or I want someone to talk to. Because there is, the stigma's getting better, but, it is still there a little bit.
100%.
But to go to those drive days and, just chat about cars and make friends and make connections, you don't have to talk about the mental health because it does its own job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about the fact that it's sort of called out at the very start around, it's a drive day, but there is a mental health focus. So it's like immediately your head, you're kind of thinking there's like a barrier down. So people are aware that, if like you want to open up about some of the stuff you've been going through, it's just a little bit easier knowing that everyone else kind of is there on the same page in a sense.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they kind of understand. You could say something to someone that isn't necessarily a complete stranger you might have seen a couple of times.
Yeah.
But you feel like you can say stuff to them and they'll kind of understand, and they'll be like, okay, it's good to open up, it's good to chat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the weight's lifted off your shoulders and you feel 100 times better. And that's kind of what it's all about, is the community.
100%.
And like I say, I've been doing it 6 years, and I think when was at dinner earlier, you said to me, why did you first go on a drive day?
Yep.
And it was kind of a little bit of I wanted to see a car.
Yes. We got to tell that story.
It was kind of relates back to my job. So I work at a Ford dealership, and it was back in 2018, and I saw on Facebook Paul Marrick, who obviously then at the time was at Car Advice, had put the post up about this drive against depression day, and there was going to be a McLaren 720S, the new i30N, which had just come out at the time, and the new Ranger Raptor. And we hadn't seen one at work, so I thought, great, I'm going to go to this drive day, I'm going to see the new Ranger Raptor and get to learn a bit about it before my customers tell me everything about it. So I went along to the drive day. I'd taken my boss's V8 Mustang, which was very nice. And it was nice to see, for a start, so many people there.
Yeah.
Because it was a really good day out and there's lots of people, even though it rained. Which, when I was driving a V8 Mustang rear-wheel drive and it was the boss's car, I was kind of very careful.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be sketchy.
I didn't want to take it back with any dents or scratches, put it that way.
Fair enough.
So I did drive like a nana. That was the start of my journey with Drive Against Depression. Had such a good day out. Spoke to lots of like-minded people to do with cars, and like we've just been saying. And spoke to Adam and Sarah, who started off the charity. And then Sarah got in contact with me afterwards, and she said, it was really good to chat in the day, and how was everything for you? So it showed that kind of caring element to the community. And then she said to me, she knew where I worked. Would your work be interested in sponsoring a drive day? I said, I'll ask the boss and see what he says, and he agreed, and it kind of went from there. Nice. So this year is going to be our fourth one. It would have been more, obviously, except for COVID.
Yes, that was a thing.
That was a thing that everybody's thankfully, hopefully forgotten about now. But it was a bit of a strange time in everybody's life.
Yeah, especially if you were in Victoria during that period.
Definitely. That was a tough time for everybody. And that's kind of where I guess the whole Drive Against Depression kind of thing becomes important again. Because everybody was locked away from each other for such a long time. That when we could go out and then we could go for a drive, it was like, how liberating is this? You can actually get out of the house.
Yep.
You can go for a drive. You can see your mates again.
Yeah.
That was sort of fantastic, and that's why we keep doing it.
100%. I remember when they announced the 5 kilometre radius lockdown. Yep. So you couldn't really do your usual just drive for the sake of it and enjoy that mental deload or that stress release. So it was oh my God, I can't go anywhere. All I can do is walk it around a block, and then that's it. Your 5Ks. Yeah. So it's any excuse to get into the car at that point and drive.
I think it was how many times do you need to go to Coles to get some milk?
I know, right?
Just as an excuse to get out of the house and drive your car, and to actually have a purpose to go somewhere. Yep. But thankfully COVID's kind of hopefully not coming back.
Yeah, I think it's still very much a thing, but the whole opinion on it from a public perspective and government side of things has just obviously changed a lot since then.
Yeah, I think it's kind of we've all had our vaccinations, and life's a little bit easier and calmed down, hasn't it? Now everybody understands it a bit better, and that sort of thing. It still exists, but it's kind of not really talked about much anymore, is it? Which is, I guess, a good thing.
Yes, 100%.
So that's kind of how we met, isn't it? Drive Against Depression. Yeah. And our love of cars.
100%.
And
love the hot hatches as well. So you had a couple of pretty cool cars.
I've had one or two.
Just one or two.
Yeah, all my friends and family are like, what are you driving this week?
Yeah, fair enough.
Because of my habit of changing my car too often, I think.
Yep.
Self-inflicted, obviously.
So let's rewind and go to the very start of what actually got you into cars.
Wow. I remember my first kind of memory of being around cars. It was when I was about 8 years old. I had an uncle who, in his job, used to get a new car every year. Because he did a lot of travelling for work. So I guess to stop racking up too many sort of miles back then as it was in kilometres.
Yep.
He'd change car every year. And he would always say to me, "Oh, no, do you want to come along with me to get the new car?" And as an 8-year-old, you think, "Oh, this is great. This is really exciting."
Yeah, for sure.
Going to get a brand new car every year was pretty good fun. And so I liked that kind of excitement of every time he went to get a car, I'd go with him. And that's what got me into selling cars, I think, because I just kind of loved being around cars. And where I'd go with him and he'd be all excited about getting his new car, I kind of wanted to be on the other side of that fence.
Yep,
I wanted to be the person handing over the keys to the new car and, getting the customer excited and seeing the excitement of them actually sort of picking up their new car.
Nice.
So that kind of got me into wanting to sell cars for a living. Here I am still selling cars. God knows how many years later. But yeah, that was kind of my early days of how I kind of fell in love with cars, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm guessing he had a good mix of cars, because if you're swapping every year, did he have a specific brand that he levitated towards, or was it just whatever was like hot at the time?
Funnily enough, Ford.
Oh, really?
Honestly, yeah, he used to have... So this is going back to sort of the very early 80s.
Yep.
He had probably 3 or 4 Ford Cortinas.
I've heard that name before.
So that was back then.
Yep.
Which obviously this is back in the UK, obviously where I'm originally from. And then he had, so that was then replaced by the Escort, which I think you got here, didn't you?
Yes, I believe so.
But then they had a sedan version called the Orion, which I don't know if you got, would look a bit like a Laser, I think, like Laser sedan, something like that.
Yeah, we did definitely get a Laser. I've seen a couple of those on the road around here.
So we didn't get those, we got the Orion instead. So that was just a booted version of a Ford Escort, essentially.
Yeah.
So he sort of progressed onto that. Obviously, as I went through my sort of teenage years, I was still interested in cars. And that was just kind of my love and how I started off liking cars.
Nice.
And
it just happened to be Fords as well.
It wasn't intentional. My first car was a Ford as well, funnily enough. So it's kind of that brand seems to have stuck with me all the way through my life.
Like, it wasn't intentional, but my first car happened to be a Ford as well.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. I think, I don't know, your first car is your first sort of bit of freedom, isn't it?
It is.
You're kind of going out, stepping out into the world on your own. And it's kind of, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like a set of wheels and you're out there kind of doing your own thing.
It's just like coming of age and the freedom that having your own car brings. It's
definitely.
Nothing like it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, it was a long time ago for me, but you can sort of always remember that first time you went out for a drive on your own.
Oh my God.
And how scared you was because I was sat next to you. It's just like, it was a yellow Ford Escort was my first car.
Very nice. Do you have a photo of that somewhere still?
It would be probably, I might have. I definitely haven't got one now that I can show you.
Yeah, that's okay.
I can show you something similar, but
yeah,
I always remember it was like this 1.3 litre engine.
Yep.
Yellow Escort with a Go Fast stripe down the side, because obviously that gave it some more power.
Yeah, and it's a known fact, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like red cars go faster.
100%. There's no arguing that.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was my first car. Yeah, yellow Ford Escort. Jeez. That was, like you say, it's just like, that's your freedom, isn't it? You can go anywhere, you can do what you like. And even back then, I suppose when you're sort of 18 or whatever, it's just any excuse to go for a drive, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go and see my mate, so I'm just going to the shops, or, just any excuse to get out of the house and get behind the wheel.
Do you remember how long you had that particular car for?
Oh, I had that for about 8 months, I think.
Okay.
which if you ask anybody now, that's quite a long time. And then I actually got another. I went through a string of Ford Escorts actually, because funny enough, at the time, and this is going back to sort of the early 90s now, my mum worked at a Ford dealership. So yeah, this Ford sort of story
just keeps
coming back for some reason. It's not planned. It sounds very much like it is, but I guarantee it's not. Yeah, she worked at a Ford dealership, and it was my first brand new car.
Nice.
Which back then was, I think it was £8,000, which I don't know what that is in Australian, probably $16,000 or something.
Yeah, the conversion rate is pretty brutal.
Back in sort of 1990. So yeah, that was a long time ago too. That was kind of my first brand new car, and it didn't end well because I had a couple of accidents in that one, and
got it.
Yeah, that was in my young stupid days.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't know if it's just me, but I think most, let's say, young males, when they first get their car and license, they just think you're invincible and you do some really dumb shit.
Yep. Guilty of that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of very young and stupid, and now I'm old and stupid, I suppose.
So nothing's changed, really.
Nothing's really changed, just how old I am. But I think that's kind of like another thing about sort of like, if you're into cars, not that you're necessarily stupid or whatever, but kind of it gives you a bit of freedom and a bit of not necessarily a carefree attitude, but there's that freedom, isn't there, with cars?
Yeah, it's almost like you get to hold onto a piece of like your youth in a sense of like the joy of getting into a car and the freedom that it brings. You can still kind of carry that with you even if you get older, I find.
Oh, absolutely. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
Whether you're 18, whether you're however old, 58, 68, if you're a car person, getting behind the wheel of whatever you're driving still gives you that buzz.
Yeah.
Of it's just you, maybe on your own, you're going for a drive just because. There's still that sort of sense of freedom, and sometimes it gives you that memory of when you were 18.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember doing this, and geez, that seemed really stupid at the time.
Yeah.
Which I think we can relate to.
Yeah, 100%.
I definitely can. But yeah, that's my first car, a yellow Ford Escort. What about yours? What was your first car?
So my first car, luckily my parents were sort of coming in with me, and we were looking at a couple of cars, I remember, on car sales. And I remember I was looking at like an FC RX-7 that my parents looked at and like, no, that is going to be an absolute nightmare to maintain because of rotaries and stuff like that. I didn't know too much about
consumption,
it. Yeah, and that's
you know now, don't you?
Yeah, I know now. And then I was looking at an automatic 300ZX.
Okay.
Because both my parents can't drive stick.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was, you have to get an automatic so you can actually learn in it, but also, you can also keep it after the fact. So I ended up going to look at a silver Honda Prelude.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was 2000 model year.
Yep.
And I just remember seeing it, getting in it, going for a test drive with the person that was selling it, and I was just like, yeah, this is the car.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
You knew straight away.
Knew straight away. I had no idea what VTEC and all that was back then. I was just like, it's cool. It looks nice.
It sounded good.
It sounded, nice, and it was just nice and low as a coupe. So like it was sporty. And then I continued most of my like learner permit on that car. I used to work with my dad, and I'd drive it there, and he'd kind of just sit, and we had to do like the hours. I don't know if that was a thing.
Wasn't when I was driving because I'm a lot older than you. But
lucky. Let's just say, you had to logbook your hours and all that sort of stuff. And then when you get to a certain point, you do your test and things like that.
Yeah.
I would probably still have that car, I think, if it didn't get into an accident. Not my fault. Someone didn't give way at a roundabout and pretty much smashed into the quarter panel.
Oh, really?
And then bent the chassis rail. And it was not a fun experience. But as a result, I ended up getting an Evo 6 after that. Which I
bet you wish you still had.
Yeah.
Because that'd be worth a bit of money these days.
100%. The only downside of that particular car was it was pretty high Ks, and I had no idea what I was getting into in terms of maintenance costs for something like that, where performance car, not made very, like, not much around in terms of parts availability and things. So when something went wrong, it's just like...
expensive.
there goes your savings and all that sort of stuff.
Easily,
Yeah.
Yeah, and But yeah, I mean, that is kind of a specialist sort of car for your second car, an Evo 6.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
It is now the sort of car that goes for quite a lot of money if it's the right model and it's located in good condition.
It's crazy how expensive 90s JDM cars are.
I think it's... And I was watching... What was I listening to? I think it was the... might have been to listen to Collecting Cars podcast with Chris Harris. And they were talking about how cars that they were driving 20 years ago thought weren't very good, that they're now looking to buy again because actually they realise it's kind of a bit of a throwback to youth and you want to sort of relive that youth.
Yeah.
But you're now sort of going back and buying the cars now because you can probably afford to run them and insure them and things like that. That's suddenly obviously driving the price up.
Yeah.
To, the average person can't necessarily afford because they're too expensive but want one.
Yeah.
So it's now the older generation that have perhaps got a disposable income that they can afford them.
Yeah.
They're just reliving their youth basically.
Yeah, and then the other side of that is things like the States where they can now import 34 GTRs and stuff like that because of the import laws and all that sort of stuff. It's like everyone's trying to get into the same market and there isn't enough supply. Which
obviously then pushes the price up too, doesn't
Correct.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have strange rules in America, don't they, for importing
they do.
Importing cars and stuff. And I remember reading something about similar to what you've just said about the R34s. In a couple of years' time they're going to suddenly become this status of you can import them and drive them and stuff.
Yep.
So everyone was like snapping them up now to then in a couple of years' time, hopefully, someone's going to want to buy it and you'll make some money.
So the smart people, I think, in the States actually bought GTRs way before all of this hype was real because they knew how the 25-year rule worked.
Right,
Just stored their cars in Japan and then as soon as, the rules change, then they can bring it across. And they've kept it at a, let's say, relatively affordable price compared to what people are doing now.
Yeah, okay. And I suppose also if you get something like a rare, like a Tommy Mackinnon or something, Evo 6, then obviously that's where the big money is.
Yep.
P1 Subarus and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, man, yeah.
I actually saw, as a bit of a side note, there was I might have been watching might have been Seen Through Glass. And it might have been a Top Gear episode or something. They was driving this Subaru and it was what was it? Was it an RB? Was it an RB one? Is that a thing?
Potentially.
Is it an RB one? I know there's a P one, and there's another one, and it was a really rare Subaru.
22B.
That's it, 22B. I've got my numbers in there.
That's all good. I was like, fancy Subaru. Must be 22B.
It's one of those things. It's on the tip of your tongue. You just can't quite remember what it's called.
Yeah.
It was a 22B, and it was like 250,000.
Yep.
It's like, wow. When did a Subaru become suddenly worth that amount of money? And I guess it's, like you were saying a minute ago, it's the rarity value and everybody suddenly wants these cars because
nostalgia,
people want to relive our youth.
Yeah.
And it's like, when he said it was 250,000, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's like, you could have bought that for probably 30,000 back when it was new or something. And now all of a sudden it's worth more than gold.
Yeah. Like, who would have thought that cars of that sort of nature, down the track, people would be using them as investment opportunities and collections and all that sort of stuff. Like, I wouldn't have picked it when I was a kid, but now it's suddenly like a legitimate thing people do.
It is, and I think it's kind of a little bit of the social media world.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, you see all these like YouTubers and they have car collections.
YouTubers.
It is though, isn't it? And it's, YouTubers in inverted commas.
Yeah.
It's I guess where it's money from YouTube that maybe enables them to buy certain cars.
Yeah.
And that's how they grow their collection in inverted commas. And it is stuff like that can then pushes the price of certain cars up. And when it was fashionable a few years ago for the YouTubers to sort of like they buy a car, do a load of content, sell the car, flip on to the next one.
Yeah.
And kind of that's how they made their living sort of thing, which is, good luck to them. But car collections is a strange thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's been going for a lot longer than we realise. Because
I'm sure it has. It's probably just been not really advertised in a way.
It's not been publicised until all of a sudden it's very fashionable to have a collection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in.
100%. I just remember that I think news article about what's his name? I think it's Adrian Portelli, and him skylifting the McLaren P1 into his apartment.
Oh, there's Senna.
Yeah,
the Senna or the P1. Yeah.
Senna, sorry. Yeah. And then then you I think 2-3 weeks later you had some billionaire in Monaco lifting his F40 onto his yacht. And it's just
really? I didn't see that one. Oh, no.
It's just like this whole world of social media of if you can do it and prove how rich you are, I can do it better. And it's just...
Yeah.
It's crazy, hey?
There's a little bit of that, isn't there? Because it's someone's done it onto his apartment building, so I'm going to do it onto my $80 million yacht or whatever it might be, just to sort of outdo him. Which is quite funny, obviously, but I guess if you got that sort of money, then why not?
Yeah,
everybody would if they could, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Well, we've all done the thing where you just sit down and say, okay, if you won 20 million on the lottery, what cars would you buy? We've all done that.
Yes.
And we probably all come up with different answers. So it's a fun game to play.
It is. All right, let's hear it. You're on the spot now.
I should have thought about that a little bit more. God, if I had to buy 5 cars. Definitely on the list would be a Ferrari 458 Speciale. Probably my favourite Ferrari of all time. I just love the looks of it. I love the stripe.
Have you driven one?
I haven't driven one. I have been in one.
Got it, yeah.
There's a guy in Melbourne who's actually got the Aperta, the convertible version.
Yep.
In the sort of standard red with the stripe. And was very, very kind to let me film in his car. We actually went out for the day filming. I sat in it. I wasn't allowed to drive it because it's worth an obscene amount of money.
Yeah, for sure.
But he took me out, and just the noise, the sound of the exhaust, it just made the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end.
Yeah.
And it's just like that memory will live with me forever.
Yep.
That's one of my best memories in a car.
Nice. Yeah.
And it's, sometimes I say don't meet your heroes. And that has been my favourite Ferrari for such a long time now. And it was kind of like when I was filming with it and got to go out, and it's like, I hope it's as good as I imagine it to be. Yeah. And it was 10 times it.
Nice.
Honestly, it was at the end of the day, I was just grinning from ear to ear. It was like, a 5-year-old on Christmas Eve, and it was just, it's a fantastic experience. So that would 100% be on my list, a Speciale or a Speciale Aperta. Nice. Either of those two. Other than that, don't know really, because that's kind of my favourite car.
The one car.
So that would have to be on there.
Yep.
You couldn't use it as a daily car, so you'd then have to get something, for the daily commute. Probably an Audi RS3.
They're nice. The newer ones?
The newer ones, but putting on the filters.
Yeah.
Because now they've got the filters on, there's no much noise and sort of theatre to them.
Got it.
So the Audi RS3, just because it's you and I both like hot hatches. But it's just like, it's iconic because it's got the 5-cylinder engine. Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
The DSG farts and that type of thing. And just love those little cars. It makes a cracking noise.
It does.
I was lucky enough, I used to work for Audi back in the UK, and the first gen Audi RS3 came out when I was there.
Oh, nice.
And got to drive that, and it's like, wow, this is cool. Bloody expensive at the time, but it was just such a cool car.
At the time, it still is.
Well, I think back then, this is going back to probably, when did the first gen come out? 2011, I think it was. And back in the UK, it was it £50,000? Which back then, it was an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
Going back sort of 13 years.
Yeah.
And then, 140,000 here in Australia now, roughly?
Yep.
But back then it was like $50,000 for a sort of little hatch runaround type of thing. It was crazy, but such a good car.
Nice.
Audi RS3 would make it to my list, I think, as well.
Nice.
Just for the sort of fun factor. God, I don't know. I don't think I'd have any classic cars. Actually, I do like a Ferrari 355.
Oh, yeah.
Which isn't necessarily the best Ferrari. But it was the first Ferrari that I kind of sort of aspired to.
Yeah.
Or sort of like, oh yeah, that's a cool car. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, 355. Maybe a GTS with the sort of tiger roof would be quite cool.
Yep. Makes sense.
Would have to be red with cream leather because
that's just what you do, right?
Just because. So there's 2 Ferraris in the top 5.
Nice.
I do quite like Porsches.
Me too.
Sort of the latter stuff. I actually quite like 997s.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the 996 with the funny sort of headlights at the front.
Yeah, it's kind of like a runny egg a little bit. Yeah.
But the 997 was kind of...
They got it right.
They got it right with the headlights, the styling.
And the size.
Yeah,
it's like an actually compact car still.
Sports car,
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays the 992s, they've grown. They're so big.
Yep.
It's like the Mini, isn't it? I remember the old sort of the original Minis. This tiny little car.
Yeah.
And now a bloody Mini's massive. It's like, it's not a Mini anymore. It's like the name kind of is a bit of an oxymoron.
Exactly like the Honda Civic. If you look at a Honda Civic, the first sort of gen EGs, even EKs, and you look at what I'm driving now, it's a family car.
It's like twice the size.
Yeah. You could actually comfortably fit a family into an FK8 or even that generation, even the 11th gen. I mean, it's just crazy how quickly stuff is growing and bloating.
Yeah, true. And I guess, some of it is because people want a car to do everything now. It's why hot hatches are so popular, isn't it? Actually, that would bring me on to another car, and it's a Golf GTI.
Nice.
Either a first gen. I'd love to drive a first gen. I've never driven a first gen Golf GTI, but it's such an iconic car.
Yeah, it started at all. Hey,
the look, because it started off the whole sort of hot hatch revolution, didn't it? No one else had really done it. So I'd love to drive a first gen Golf GTI.
I think it'd be a cool experience for sure.
I think it'd be quite. I actually saw one at a Highball Cars and Coffee a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I hadn't really seen one close up for a long, long time. And it's like, wow, and you forget how small they were. It's like what you were just saying about the Civic. It's like the first gen sort of Golf GTIs were such a tiny little car, whereas the latest ones are sort of twice the size and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think a Golf GTI of some description would have to go on the list.
Very nice. Then you got one more.
One more, God. I don't know whether I should choose an electric car or not, or whether that's kind of banned on this podcast.
It is not banned.
Oh, that's okay then.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have opinions about electric cars. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I've driven quite a few, I've been lucky enough to sort of drive a few different models of electric cars.
Yep.
And I definitely see the need or the benefit of them. But then there's still lots of problems and infrastructure situations and what happens if you get rid of the battery after 10 years and replace the battery, the cost and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think they're fascinating.
They are.
So yeah, would I put an electric car on the list? I don't know. I don't know. But then you think of there's so many other cool cars out there. You could look at sort of Aston Martins, or there's so many stunning looking Aston Martins.
There it is.
I don't necessarily want one, but I just like the way they look.
I like the sound as well.
Oh, they sound amazing, don't they?
Yeah.
They sound astonishing. That GT V8 that Shmee's got, that sounds crazy.
Yes.
That's a cool sounding car.
Yeah.
Or even Maseratis sound cool.
They do.
With the Ferrari V8. What else would I have as my 5th car on the list? There's almost too much to choose from.
There is.
What would you... I'll have a think. What would you have on your list?
So first car for me, I think that started a lot of the passion for cars is I remember seeing a short video someone did on YouTube. I think the channel's like Format 67 or whatever, is about a first gen NSX.
Okay,
and it was just championship white with pop-up headlights.
Yep.
And something about that car and the fact that like it looks like a Ferrari, but it's a Honda and it's reliable.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And that sort of stuff. I don't just have to have one in my garage. I need to drive one, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Because the strange thing is, I think the interior of the Prelude was kind of designed based on the NSX, so it looks very similar for my generation at least.
Yeah, you can definitely see they're from the same family, can't
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one. A 997 GT3, I think, is a good sort of choice in the sense of it's still a compact car, but it sounds absolutely amazing with those flat six engines.
Yes.
It's just, there's nothing like the howl of a flat six.
Yeah. Definitely got a much more distinctive character than the current sort of turbocharged stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Which sounds a bit sort of quiet and unengaging to sort of compare, doesn't it?
Yep. A 33 GTR. And the reason I like the 33 is because most people don't.
Okay.
I don't know, like everyone's like,
Controversial.
yeah, it's like, oh, it's the ugliest looking GTR out of the main three, let's say, or it's the heaviest, whatever it may be. I like it for the fact that it seems like a good mix between softer lines and some of the more aggressive styling of the 34.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's a good blend between the two.
Yeah, because the 34 has got that sort of very angular look to it, isn't it? Sort of very square and sort of lines everywhere and things like
very
that.
like masculine, whereas the 32 was just small, sleek, and I'd say pretty revolutionary for its time.
Yep.
And I think the 33 just got it right, for me at least.
Yeah, okay. That's a good shout.
Yeah, and then let's see. So that's 3.
It's tough when someone puts you on the spot, isn't it?
It honestly is, eh? I love an old school American muscle kind of car, so I've always had a soft spot for like 68 Camaros.
Yeah, okay.
So that'd be a nice, like, weekend to take it out in nice weather and whatnot.
Yep.
And I need something that's like, a daily of some description, something you can use every day.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to sort of think of as well.
Yeah.
It's nice to have all sort of the fun stuff or, the classic if you want to kind of have a weekend car.
Yeah, and like, honestly, my FK8 is perfect for that in a lot of ways.
Yep.
I think it's just, I need to start driving it again so I start to appreciate it again.
Oh, exactly.
Because at the moment, because it's just sitting there, it's just like, it's just, expensive paperweight that I should probably sell.
Yep.
But as soon as I get back into that seat and remember what it was like for that first test drive, I was just like, holy shit, I need this in my life.
You'll fall in love with it all over again, won't you?
100%. And as soon as you sort of start daily driving something, I don't know what it is, but you sort of start to lose the appeal of what the car is actually capable of because you're just driving in stop-start traffic.
Yeah, you kind of does. It just becomes your daily driver then. It's not your fun weekend toy.
Yeah, and like, you can always give it a bit of a boot full every now and then when you've got some space and whatnot, or like freeway on-ramp or whatever it may be, but it's never the same as actually taking it out for a nice weekend drive and going to a track day and being able to push it properly for what it's designed to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'd agree with that because if it's your special car, if you only use it at weekends or maybe a couple of times a month, it remains special. Rather than use it every day, you kind of like, you're just commuting to work and it's just doing a chore then, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but like, cost of living is a thing. It is not easy,
isn't it?
Many countries and whatnot. So even having the means to support having a daily and a special car, like it's not something that I think most people will take lightly if you've got that option, like it's really lucky to have the fact that you can have a daily or whatever it may be and then have this special car in the garage.
Yeah, true. Yeah, well, and you need to have the space as well, obviously.
That too, yes.
I've thought of my 5th car, by the way. So
very nice. Go for it.
I don't know why it suddenly came to me. The Audi RS4 B7. So we're talking sort of around 2007 era.
Yeah, that's the RS4 was the wagon, yeah?
They did a sedan, a wagon, and a convertible, funnily enough. Well, they certainly did in the UK, because that's where I was living at the time.
That's a V8.
That's the 4.2 V8, the naturally aspirated one. Which, do you remember on Top Gear, Jeremy Clarkson drove it on that sort of windy mountain versus the two guys who had doing the free fall jumping?
Yes.
Do you remember that one?
I think so.
That's the B7.
Yeah.
And I was actually working at Audi at the time.
Oh, nice.
When they came out, and I was lucky actually enough to go to the factory where they built them, which was very cool. And the actual car to drive there, if anybody's ever driven one or lucky enough to own one, it was so different than what Audi had ever done before because they were known for being lots of understeer and front nose heavy.
Yes.
Whereas this new RS4 at the time wasn't like that. It was just as good as the M3. Which at the time was obviously the yardstick.
Yes, yeah. Still is in a lot of ways.
It still is because it's an iconic car.
Yeah.
But that particular version of the RS4 was a manual gearbox. It was easy to drive, so you could thrash the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But it drove well for an Audi.
I like how you had to add for an Audi.
I'm a big Audi fan. I'm a big BMW fan.
Yeah.
But I get at the time though is that the M3 was the king of the road, wasn't it, in terms of that type of car?
Yeah.
And then for the RS4 to come along and be as good as the M3,
that's a big statement.
It was a big statement for Audi.
Yeah.
And exactly. And the noise that the engine made as well, that 4.2 V8, which revved to somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 revs from memory, was just a glorious engine.
Yep.
The clutch was light, so it wasn't a dog to drive.
Yep.
And it was just such an awesome piece of kit.
Nice.
Such an awesome... Yeah, that would be my list, I reckon, an Audi RS4 B7.
Nice. Do you know what gen of M3 there would have been out at that time?
So that would have been E90?
Yeah.
E90 sedan, E92 coupe.
Got it. So that would have been the V8 as well.
Yes, that was the 4-litre V8, yeah.
Interesting how they both went down that V8
Both had the V8, yeah.
High revving V8 as well.
Yeah, so quite a bit of sort of competition for each other.
Yeah.
I think I liked the Audi because I was working for Audi at the time.
Yep.
But yeah, it was, unless you knew what it was, the big sort of flared rear arches,
Yep.
The exhaust at the back and the noise that it made, it just sort of looked like any other Audi A4, unless you knew what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the appeal for a car, I think, is kind of understated.
That sleeper.
The sleeper vibe.
Yeah.
And then it surprises everybody with, it sounds like this sort of like raging V8 under the bonnet.
Yeah.
It's such a cool car. Such a cool car. So yeah, I think one of those.
Very nice. Have you, by chance, looked at the prices of those at the moment?
I haven't recently.
I like how you get to
I have looked.
Yeah.
But I think that's because they're obviously now such an old car, they're kind of 17 years old or thereabouts.
Yeah.
The maintenance would be scary.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because obviously now you've got to go to a specialist, sort of Audi service place to actually get it looked after properly.
Yep.
And, whether there's parts still available and that type of thing.
It's a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
It's definitely a gamble, and if something goes wrong, it's a big pay.
Yes.
That's an expensive bill.
Yeah. And unless you got the money to play with, I mean, sometimes it's not worth that risk in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it would definitely be nice if I had, the money to sort of throw it and do it properly. Buy a really good one that had low mileage, been well maintained, and all that sort of stuff. That would be a cool thing to have sitting in the garage.
Yeah, it could definitely be the, let's say, special car.
Oh, it would be. It would definitely be a special car. That would be my 5, I reckon.
Nice. I've got a really soft spot for estates and wagons. So, if I could find the RS4 and RS6 have always been really, synonymous for having just, really cool estate vibes, performing really well and stuff. And then now BMW's finally caved it on M3 Touring. So...
Yeah, that almost made it to my list.
Oh,
almost, because I did get to drive one of those a few months ago.
Yeah.
Awesome bit of kit.
Yes.
Awesome bit of kit. Yeah.
And it can only get better from here, you would think, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because it's kind of almost like that's the pinnacle as far as you can go with an M3. Because now they're going to be probably forced to go down the route of some sort of hybrid or electric.
True.
And it's kind of like, is that now the last decent version of the M3? Because obviously now it's not going to be just a petrol engine. It's going to go along the way of hybrid or electric or whatever.
Yeah, it's scary.
So that could be kind of almost like a unicorn, that car, in a few years to come, because it's a wagon / estate / touring / whatever you want to call it.
So many names for it.
Yeah, exactly, depending on where you live in the world. It could end up being a bit of a unicorn. Because, twin turbos straight 6, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
Twin turbos straight 6. The next one could just be fully electric. Which a lot of cars are going down that way now. So
yeah, it's interesting, hey?
Interesting, but kind of, I don't know, for people like us that are petrol heads,
it's a bit scary.
It's kind of taking away the fun.
Yeah.
Electric cars go fast in a straight line, which is very cool.
But there's only so many times you can do a launch and, And
then you sort of eventually get over the thrill of it.
Yes.
But yeah, you still can't get, you don't get the noise out of an electric car. You don't get the thrill of the engine building up power and the changing of the gears and stuff.
Yeah.
So it loses that sort of appeal. So yeah, I don't know. It kind of like the future. We've lived in a great era of cars, I reckon.
We have 100%.
There's been some awesome cars, but now it's kind of all going to electric, and they're good for different reasons.
Exactly, and I think the worrying thing about electric cars for myself personally is you're getting to a point where you're going to be treating them like phones, which is appliances. You swap them out every couple of years or whatever because this one's got more like cool tech or whatever it may be, or the battery's running out, so is it cheaper just to buy a new electric car versus replace the battery and all that sort of stuff? I just worry that it gets too clinical and we lose the sense of what made cars special to begin with.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, because we were talking earlier about phones, and it's sort of like every year there's a new iPhone that comes out, and everybody rushes to get the new phone. And I'm guilty of that myself. And yeah, because there's always a new feature that comes out.
Yes,
and everyone's I've got to have the new feature because I'm not necessarily going to use it, but I want to have it because it's there.
Yep.
And it's the same for cars. It's like your Teslas and all the other electric cars that can, every time a new one comes out, it beats the previous one 0 to 100 time and by 0.1 of a second. So it's kind of that's the next best thing to have. But it's like you say, it's just an appliance at the end of the day, isn't it? If that's your daily, then fine.
Exactly. Then, if you're in the city as well and you've got the infrastructure to support you having an electric vehicle, I think by all means it makes so much sense. It's almost silly not to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I've driven quite a few electric cars and I can definitely see the benefit of them because actually when you're driving, it actually sort of calms you down a bit because it's quiet, it's smooth, and it's this just relaxing sort of atmosphere inside the cabin.
Yep.
It kind of just does the job of getting to and from work.
Yeah.
So that's when then I can see people going back to buy, say, your Evo 6s for the weekend.
Yep.
And having that sort of fun element.
Yep.
So then you might find the value of those cars suddenly shoots up again.
Yeah.
Because people are buying them for just fun sort of weekend cars.
Yep.
And just using their Tesla or whatever during the week.
Yeah. It's been a very interesting experience because I've come to Melbourne, let's say, on Saturday past, and one of the Ubers that I got in to get to where I'm staying currently was a Polestar 2.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a really interesting experience in the sense of Volvo EV. It was built really well, really nice to ride in. You can definitely get a good sense of the weight behind EVs, I find.
Yes.
Even just going like, your standard driving or whatnot, you can just tell there's a lot of heft.
Yes,
to it. And then today, one of my work colleagues has actually got a BYD Seal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I got into that, and that was another really cool experience. It's strange not having a transmission tunnel in a car as well, especially if you're not used to it and whatnot. Really nice riding car, a lot of tech in that car. Build quality, I'd say, pretty good, but it's relatively new.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, it's like, well, you've got all these new manufacturers jumping into this market as well. I kind of do get a little bit worried about some of the traditional manufacturers like Honda, Toyota, all that sort of stuff. It's just like, I don't know about the direction we're going in.
Yeah, the Chinese sort of brands are obviously very good at what they do. And because obviously, tech is their thing. And, with tech, anything's expensive when it first comes out, gets much cheaper as it goes along, which is the same for electric cars.
100%, yeah.
So that's why the Chinese are now coming into the market and undercutting everybody.
Yep.
Because they're building it in mass numbers and, they're doing it in volume so it becomes cheaper.
Yes.
So, yeah, you kind of see where they're going with it. And, it's great for commuting, but, we still want something to have fun with at the weekend.
Yeah. Until they somehow crack the code of making an EV fun. Is it possible? Probably. But I don't see it happening for a while.
It's hard because what you were just saying for the weight.
Yeah.
Like I say, of all the electric cars I've driven, even the really good ones, you can still feel that weight. They're still bloody quick.
Yeah.
But you can still feel that weight, when you're going into a corner or if you go for a speed bump, how firm the suspension is because they've got to cope with the extra weight of the batteries.
Yes.
There's no sort of perfect answer, I don't think, for electric cars. Having said that, have you seen? I saw this on it might have been an Instagram post or something, the new MG that's coming out. The little 2-door Roadster, the Cyberster or something it's called.
I have not.
So it's an electric 2-door convertible, basically. So back, sort of thinking back to when obviously MG made like 2-door sports cars and convertibles and stuff like that.
Interesting.
It's that, but electric. Have a Google of it at some stage. It's a bloody good looking little car. If they can get that right, that'll make electric cars fun, because it's not just a 4-door sedan.
Yeah,
it's like a 2-door convertible / sports car type of thing.
Yeah, and that's sort of what the EV market is missing in a lot of ways. Like, it's got, you know, your really quick sort of your Tesla Model S's, your Porsche Taycans, all that sort of stuff. But you don't really have let's say, a dedicated sports EV, really, that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, they all go fast because that's just the nature of electricity. But yeah, there's no sort of character and soul to them, is there? Not like an RS4 or an Evo 6.
Exactly.
It makes some cracking noises.
100%.
Because, you know, that's what petrol heads love. It's the noise and
the experience, I think.
The theatre and that sort of thing, isn't it?
100%.
Actually, I did read or saw a video recently of the new little Fiat Abarth electric. Was it a 500e or something they call it?
Okay, yep.
Obviously it's electric, but it's got this sound generator thing, and it makes it, when you obviously touch the accelerator, it revs like a petrol car. Oh. So it's almost like it sounds like a petrol car, but it's electric.
Interesting.
I haven't driven one or seen one, but apparently it's meant to be quite a cool little thing.
I remember Dodge, or a video of Dodge trying to make a electric Challenger, but have V8 noises or something, and a lot of people were up in arms about how that was done.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's just noise at the end of the day. There's nothing like the actual experience. So hats off to people if they can somehow pull it off and make it feel like part of the experience, but not like something tacked on.
Yeah, I think actually, you know, you were saying about a fun EV. I think Hyundai have just brought out the Ioniq 5N, haven't they?
Yes.
That I keep seeing bits and pieces about.
Yeah.
And I saw Paul Merrick did a video, and he was like sliding it around, and he said how fantastic it was. So maybe that's the tipping point.
Could be. Hyundai to get there first out of everyone. That's interesting, hey?
Yeah, they've done quite a few electric cars now, haven't they? And they've always been a little bit quirky too, with like the Ioniq 5.
They have, yeah.
Which has got questionable looks. I think that's probably the politest way I can put it.
Yeah.
Because like any car, it's got sort of looks only a mother could love.
Yep. I mean, I could say the exact same thing about my Civic.
That's a good thing about cars, though, isn't it? It's kind of like
polarizing in some aspects.
It's you know, so you love your car, I love my car. Everybody loves their own car. Whether it's for its looks, its fun, its practicality, or whatever.
Yep.
That's the cool thing about cars. Every car can
be special.
Be special to that person, can't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Which is quite cool.
It is, for sure. So I think we should get into your side hustle that we have yet to really mention, but have made subtle hints at. So you've got a YouTube channel. Tell us about it.
A YouTube channel. So I've been doing it probably, when did it start? End of 2018, I think. So it's kind of 5.5 years in. Something that kind of just started as I actually went on a Ford training day, took my GoPro with me.
Yep.
Because I just wanted to make a video to show my customers of this Ranger Raptor that we were going to drive. And I made the video, and I kind of, I'll put it on YouTube. That's a cool idea. That's the thing to do at the time.
That was your very first video, yeah, I think?
Yeah, I think it was.
Because I was having a look yesterday, and it's like a red Ranger Raptor or orange colour, I think.
I think it would have been red at the time. Yeah, I did a couple of different videos with the Raptor.
Yeah.
And it was very kind of... there was no thought process behind it, if you like. There was no kind of setting up cameras and mics and editing and all this sort of thing like I want to do now. It was literally just take my GoPro, hold it and record. And that was the result of what came of it.
Yep.
And it's kind of one of those sort of things that when you put a video up and it gets good interaction, it's kind of like it feeds a bit of an addiction. Because you sort of think, oh, that was cool.
Can relate.
I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
Of course, not every video does as well as all the others. But it was kind of like, like everybody else, you do a bit of social media with your Facebook and your Instagram. And it was just an extension from that, really. And, I'm lucky enough that being in the car trade, you get access to cars that you can film and that type of thing. I always used to sort of like, if a new model came out, I'd do a little video, I'd post it on YouTube. And it kind of grew from there a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then good old COVID actually helped out. Because what we were saying before, like when we were at dinner, normally when people pick up their new car, you spend the time to show them around the car, how everything works. But in COVID, we couldn't do that. It was a case of like, it was a contactless delivery. They would come along, you'd give them the keys, see you later. Which to me was a little bit alien because, you're normally used to spending that time with the customer to give them that good experience and here's your new car sort of thing. So I felt a little bit kind of let down for the customer, but there was something missing for me too, because I didn't get that satisfaction of, being able to generate the excitement for the customer, that when they pick their new car, it was a great experience and all this type of thing. So I kind of took it upon myself. It's like, well, I want to show them still how to use their car. So I started making videos on, okay, how do you use your sat-nav system, how do you use your cruise control, and different things like that, which even now, 4 years after, are still quite popular.
Yep.
There's still some of the popular videos on the channel. So that sort of kind of gave me a bit of a push to sort of do a bit more of it, I suppose.
Yep.
Because it was like I liked helping people, to sort of get the most out of their car and that type of thing. And then, it just kind of went on from there, really. And, new models come out at work, so you make a video or you make a video of a particular feature that's new or different. So it's always quite cool to do stuff like that. And then, it's like I actually think it was James Wong, who we met at Driving Against Depression, who is now a car expert. You sort of get this whole network of other people that do the same type of thing.
Yep.
Got in contact with this girl called Andrea, and we were chatting away, and she said, "Oh no, why don't you sort of try and get press cars from manufacturers? Because if you like doing that sort of thing, you can try different cars."
Yep.
So, I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't know who to talk to, and that type of thing. She said, "Oh, well, look, I've got a couple of contacts that are really good. Here's their details. Get in contact and go from there."
Nice.
And I've been very lucky. Hyundai Australia are fantastic. They lend me lots of cars.
Yep.
BMW Australia, again, the same sort of thing. So if you look on my channel, you'll see lots of BMWs and Hyundais. And that's kind of where it started, I suppose. And it's the age-old thing. Is like the more you do, the more you get, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like we were saying earlier. The more videos you post, the more traction you get.
Yes.
The bigger audience, and it kind of grows.
Yeah. The snowballs from there, pretty much. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where it sort of got to, I suppose.
Nice.
BMW very kindly, they lend me lots of cars. I've been lucky enough. Recently, I've had an M2 or the M3 touring. Yep. Which are very cool.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to experience lots of different cars, and I like to sort of give my opinion of them, but I don't think I do it in a journalistic type of way. It's just me giving my opinion of the car.
Yep.
As a car lover, not necessarily as a salesperson, because it's more my passion rather than my job, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's just grown from there, and it's kind of like I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy driving lots of different cars.
Yeah.
Because I just like the experience of driving lots of different cars. And if I can share my thoughts and opinions or the information about that car with other people and they benefit from it, then
it's sort of like a win-win.
That's kind of what it means to me, I suppose. And when I get lots, people comment on the videos, and there'll be something, "Oh, that was a great video," or "Oh, thanks, that was really helpful. It made me make my decision on what to buy." It's like, "Oh, that's actually really cool."
It is.
I've had people come up when I'm filming and say, "Oh, what are you doing?" So I'm making a YouTube video. And then, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Whatever. I actually had a guy message me. I've been filming with the i30N, and he'd stopped. I was in this car park just doing this bit of filming, and he stopped and had a look at the car. He said, I'm actually thinking of buying one of these. I said, well, have a sit in it, do what you want.
Yep.
He messaged me about 2 months later via my Instagram. And he said, I don't know if you remember me, but, we met in this car park while you were filming on this Sunday morning. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I vaguely remember you. And he said, oh, thanks to you, I bought a car.
Nice.
Because I'd stopped and chatted to him and showed him around the car.
Yeah.
Just as a sort of a general, have a look at it.
Yeah.
And he just took the time to message me and say, oh, thanks, I've actually bought a car.
That's a really cool
and I actually got a bit of satisfaction from that because, it only took a few minutes to sort of stop and show him the car. But I guess it's in my nature of sort of helping people in my job that I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've had a few people sort of say, oh, thanks for that, I bought a car because of watching your video.
It's interesting because it's almost like you're starting the journey of them getting a car by being helpful.
Yep.
And by even before they even get the physical car that they potentially may be looking at, the fact that someone has let them sit in it or whatever, or you've had a video out for this particular car, someone's had it, looked at it, realised that the reviews sort of match up with what they're expecting the car will bring.
Yep.
It's it's just a cool experience to have before you even own a new car. It's like a starting point almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all do it. Everyone goes on Google nowadays to find out information, or you'll go on YouTube to find out information about something.
It is.
So I love the fact that if my videos can help someone choose their next car, it's quite sort of satisfying when you get someone message you and say, oh, thanks for your video, watching it, sort of, I found out this piece of information, or, I will know how to use that function on my car that I didn't know how to use before.
Yeah.
So I get quite a lot of satisfaction about that, and it kind of makes you then want to make another video.
Yeah.
To then sort of, if I've helped him, I could maybe help someone else, or...
Yeah. It's interesting how YouTube has kind of, made comparing multiple things much more accessible. If you just go to find a video, you'll find plenty of videos about the same sort of topic, just different opinions, and you can kind of make an informed decision around, is that the direction you want to head down in terms of getting a product or versus something else?
Yeah. Oh, exactly right. And, like we were talking earlier, the car review sort of niche on YouTube is so saturated.
Yeah.
That everybody's got their kind of own opinion. And obviously, the big sort of journalistic websites are out there doing it sort of properly, if you like. Whereas I'm just doing it, it's just my opinion.
Yep.
Whether or not someone agrees with it is another thing. But I just sort of say, oh, this is what I think to the car. Whether that's a good or a bad opinion, I actually give my honest opinion.
Yeah.
Even the stuff of my work, I won't sort of put my Ford hat on and say, oh, this is the best car in the world. I have to be a bit careful, obviously, but,
Yes.
I would rather sort of give my honest opinion and sort of actually say to people, oh, if you're thinking of buying this car, be careful of this, or if you're buying this car, look at this model instead of the base model, or, whatever it might be. I suppose I'm still sort of almost being a salesperson, but not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't necessarily always have let's say a brand allegiance, and you're in kind of providing potential buyers just a educated opinion.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I don't sort of just go on with my Ford hat on and say, oh no, you've got to buy this because Ford make it.
Yeah.
I am a car person just like you are.
Yeah.
I love cars, and yeah, I don't have a particular favourite brand. Apart from a Ferrari, obviously. I just love everything cars, and it's nice being able to share your passion with cars.
Yes.
And I think that's why, I make the videos, and I like to share my passion about what car I'm driving that week. Because, not everybody's got access to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if someone's looking at buying a particular car, they might not have access to get all the information they need. Which is hopefully where, if they do watch one of my videos and they get that information, it's giving them a bit more that they needed to know to make their decision to buy the car.
Exactly. And I think you can only learn so much by having a test drive experience. as well. That's the tricky bit. So
Yeah.
if you want to learn a lot more about the intricacies of a car, you sort of really need an extended period of time to kind of actually live with it. And that's where you can kind of make good decisions. And not everyone will have the access to do so. So that's where car reviewers kind of fill that niche in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm lucky when I get these sort of press cars from different manufacturers. They always give them to me for a week. So it's a good amount of time to kind of actually get used to living with the car and then learn all the quirks and the goods and the bads.
Yeah.
That I can put in the video. So it's great in that respect.
Yeah. Apologies for the background noise. We are obviously recording in a hotel room which isn't terribly insulated, so we are not getting arrested, I swear.
It sounded like that was about 3 foot from the window.
Yeah. These microphones are super sensitive.
They're very sensitive, aren't they?
They are indeed.
It sounded like you'd put that in as a backing track. I thought you'd like dub that in over the conversation.
Cue sirens now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a little button on one of those little boxes on the desk, and the sound effect buttons.
Before I rudely sidetracked you, but yeah, I think a week is like a good amount of time to really get to know the intricacies of a car, I'd say.
It is definitely, because if you have a car just for a day, that sometimes I've had to only do that short amount of time. You've got to very quickly form that opinion and try and get as much information out of the time you've got with the car. And obviously then also try and make the video be good before you give the car back. And sometimes it's really difficult.
You almost have to come up with like a test plan in a way, of like, this is the scenario I want to see how the car behaves in and whatnot.
Yeah, and every car will be different depending on what the car is and what its characteristics are. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to sort of do it really quickly.
Yep.
Because sometimes you've got to live with the car to sort of find out its little quirks and sort of characteristics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy doing it. It's good fun, and all the while people watch the videos and leave comments and stuff. It kind of it makes me want to sort of keep doing it.
Yeah.
Which I do love it, and I don't get many bad comments, thankfully. So
nice.
I guess people must enjoy the videos to a point.
Yeah. Would you say that your confidence has built over time by just continuously sort of improving as you go, and you've kind of like made little tweaks as you go as well?
Yeah, definitely. It is, something we were talking about earlier. The first time I stuck my face in front of a camera, it was kind of like...
It's a daunting thing.
It's very daunting. You're very sort of nervous. And when you kind of watch that video back for the first time, like we were saying, it's like, oh, is that my voice? Do I sound like that? And even, you do get much more confident the more you do it. You find it easier to do. You kind of get yourself into a bit of a routine of how you do things as well. In terms of the things you look for in the car, or the things you point out, or the way you film it, or the way you edit it. You get better at what you do. So it definitely does get easier, I suppose, over time. And yeah, you definitely get more confidence in your kind of own ability, I suppose, if you want to put it like that. So yeah, I'd say definitely over time it's got easier.
Nice. Yeah. You would hope so, right?
Yeah, I'd like to say otherwise I'm doing something wrong. It's like if I look back at my early videos now, I'm like, wow, I kind of like really look a bit wooden and stiff, and the way you maybe sort of speak back then.
Yeah. But that's the joy, I think, about content creation specifically, is like you can go back to your earlier stuff and be like, on this episode of the podcast, I sounded so different and not confident, or in your videos, like, for example, picking up that you're stiff and whatnot. It's just like, it shows progression. And I think you can kind of appreciate that element of it. Progression is a good thing.
Definitely. And I think it's sometimes also you feel more comfortable doing it. Because like I say, I'm lucky enough I get different cars from different manufacturers, and when the people at my work would be, oh, whose car's that? And I say, oh, that's mine, I've got that for the week. Where'd you get that from? And then you have to have the whole conversation of where you've got it from, why you've got it, what you're doing.
Yep.
And yeah, kind of in the early days, everyone was a little bit, oh, you're doing YouTube? Or, almost it's a bit sort of like, some people was, oh, you're not very good at it, or
Yep.
You'll never kind of make it a type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
But which kind of does knock your confidence a little bit. But then you sort of suddenly think, well, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it, and I want to make these videos. So yeah, I'll do it, and I don't really care what you think.
Yeah. Did you have a particular people or support group that were really positive in your pursuit of doing YouTube, or was it just purely yourself ambition, and then you just drove it from there? Let's say
I've been lucky. So with the manufacturers I've worked with, have been obviously really good in obviously lending me the cars. Family have been good. My son takes the piss a little bit now and again, just because
that's what they do. I suppose
that's what kids do.
Yeah.
But now I think people are kind of used to me doing it.
Yeah.
It's more an intrigue thing.
Yes.
I think, as I was saying to you earlier when we were having dinner, when I get a new car at work now, everyone will see this different sort of car parks in the car park, and I'll have a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh, what's that you're driving this week?" Or "Can we have a look?" Or "Can you take me out for a drive in it?" So now there's this much more supportive kind of nature, I suppose, if you like. You see, even my big boss at work, I can go into and say, "Oh, look what I'm driving this week," and he's like, "Oh, take us out in it."
Nice.
And he's like, and considering most of them aren't Fords,
yes,
they're very sort of supportive in that respect as well, because they know I do this sort of outside hours, it's my hobby.
Yes.
But they're very good at kind of letting me do it, I suppose, if you like, because they could be, "No, you work for Ford, you can't do this and film other manufacturers' cars."
Yeah.
Because it's detrimental to what you do at work.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think they see it as kind of actually it can be a good thing, because if I've got this car for a week from a different manufacturer that maybe competes with one of ours, it's kind of good to learn the competition.
Yes, I agree.
Not that that's why I do it, but I guess that's maybe why they let me do it.
Yeah, but you can also identify things that competitors are doing better than Ford and feed that back into Ford's build process as well, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, you can do that as well. Ford have lent me cars as well, by the way. I'll have to mention that. It's not just cars I've got from my work. They have actually lent me some proper press cars too.
Yeah. Do you think people are generally a bit more supportive now because it's almost, you've got through that rough period of adjusting and trying something new, and now it's normal. Plus, they're actually genuine car people at heart, so they can kind of respect what you're trying to do, even if it's with a different manufacturer.
I think there's definitely more of a respect thing now.
Yeah.
It's like what we were saying earlier. When you were saying about sort of people sort of say I do it, but someone else does it, but they're not brave enough to do it themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's kind of a defence mechanism. So they'll take the piss instead of be supportive.
Yeah.
Whereas actually now, because I've been doing it for a little while, they're actually more supportive. Because they're more interested in what I'm doing or what I'm driving. So that kind of initial sort of thing has passed.
Yeah.
So actually, they're now actually more interested in what I'm doing and what I'm driving.
Yeah, so I think the key messaging behind that for people that are listening is also just try push through that initial phase of things being uncomfortable. And you may not always get the most support from, let's say, family, work colleagues, whatever it may be. Just keep doing it and it'll eventually will become easier.
Definitely, 100%. I think anybody who sort of suddenly says, "Oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel," because it's such a common thing to do these days.
It is.
But it's still pushing yourself out there. It's still being brave and taking that first step to actually do it.
Yes.
Because you do need to be brave, unless you're one of those lucky people that have just got great charisma and character and can just step in front of a camera really easily. It definitely takes some balls to do.
Yes.
And, I've had time as well I thought, "Oh, is this really worth it? Am I getting what I want out of this hobby, I suppose?" But then when I think about the enjoyment I do get out of it, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
I love doing it. And I just get so much fun and enjoyment. And, if you get the good feedback from the videos, if you get the nice comments, that's just kind of the cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah.
That just makes it, you think, actually, yeah, I really enjoyed that video. Someone else has enjoyed that video, and, you know, they've felt the need to comment or pose a question.
Yeah.
So it does give you a lot of satisfaction when that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, for anybody who's thinking of doing it or just started out and, you know, think it's a bit of a chore, keep going, because it can be done. No one's going to sort of get overnight success unless you're either lucky or you've got a good video channel or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those gold mine moments where not everyone's going to hit that. You know, majority of people, whenever they launch a YouTube channel, etc., there's going to be a lot of trial and error, a lot of slow improvements over time and whatnot. And eventually you potentially can hit the goals that you set if you want to take something like that full time or whatnot. It's just obviously a lot harder when it's so saturated.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's so, like I said earlier, car reviews is so saturated, as are a lot of other sort of categories, if you like.
Yeah.
But it does take a while to build up an audience. And,
yes.
You know, I remember every time I'd get to, when I first got to like 100 subscribers, because it's that sort of magical figure, 100, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's, I've got 100 subscribers. Wow, 100 people are following me. And it's just sort of crazy to think these unknown people that are out there somewhere in the world are actually following you. And then you sort of know each kind of little goalpost that you sort of pass, it sort of just reminds you sort of actually, you know, the satisfaction of why you're doing it, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. I get what you mean. Do you stop to actually celebrate milestones, or are you on to the next one straight away sort of thing? No,
I always like to, sort of, I suppose, take a moment and, yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, I sort of early this year I hit 10,000 subscribers.
Congrats. Yeah, I saw that.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was like, wow, that's kind of the next sort of the big number, if you like.
Yes.
You know, you get your 1,000, then you get your 5,000. And so 10,000 is kind of a round figure, I suppose. You want to get to that number.
Yep.
And it's like, when I got there, it's like, I never thought I was going to get to 10,000. When I started off, I was like, if I got to 1,000, wow, that would be cool. Now, if 1,000 people watched my videos and subscribed, that would be like an amazing figure.
Yeah.
So yeah, for anyone who's starting out and just starting to do YouTube, it will take a while to get to, unless you're lucky. So don't sort of give up. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. You can always improve, like, you know, you and I have both sort of learned. And especially if you're in front of the camera, it can be very awkward.
Yeah, I'm lucky I can hide behind a microphone and no one will ever see my true face.
Some people say that about me. I should be behind the microphone. But yeah, it's good fun. I love doing YouTube.
Yeah, that's I think the thing, right, you were sort of talking about as well, is just make sure you're having fun with it.
Yeah, and I think when it stops becoming fun, then you've got to sort of, why am I doing this? If it's not making you happy, it's like a job, isn't it? If you're not happy in your job, change.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Or, you know, if you're not happy doing what you're doing on YouTube, either, you know, make different videos or something you do enjoy. I'm lucky that cars are my hobby and my passion.
Yep.
So I find them easy to talk about and easy to get excited about.
Yeah.
So when I'm making a video, it's easy for me to to do it, I suppose, now.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people pick up, is like when you've got genuine passion and energy for something, it's really easy for other people to understand and see that through podcasting, YouTubing, etc. Like it comes through the medium that you're choosing to present yourself on. So just stay true to yourself as well, I'd say. Yeah. And it will come.
Yeah, and it's like, just think that, you know, if you're out there making a video for YouTube, and, you know, people might sort of make fun of you and think, oh, you're trying to be a YouTuber. Give them the camera and see if they can do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, give it, if someone's taking the piss out of you, excuse my French, just say, okay, well, here's the camera, you make the video and see what sort of job you can do. And then they'll suddenly go quiet, I reckon.
Yeah, so most people
it takes a lot of balls to do this.
It does.
And I don't profess to be the best at it at all. I just enjoy what I do.
I mean, you have to be in the game to win it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. but just do it. Have fun with it. If you want to take it seriously, obviously do so.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Don't give up. I think. Don't worry about what other people say, as long as you're enjoying it. Because there's always going to be haters out there.
Yes.
You're going to get your keyboard warriors and people that just put up stupid comments because it makes them feel good about themselves. Yeah, and say if someone's giving you grief, just say, okay, well, you make a video.
Yep.
And I'll watch your video back. And then they'll suddenly go a little bit quiet.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
Or do what I do and just put smart ass comments back on your post. I had a funny one, actually, just as a side note. Someone had said, I think because I'm English.
Yeah.
My voice isn't sort of like American. American voices are very sort of jovial and bubbly, aren't they?
Yeah.
But because I'm English, I'm very kind of the usual sort of stiff English sort of kind of voice, if you like. And someone had put on my videos, watching this bloke's video could send me to sleep because he's so boring. I thought, geez, that's not very nice. Well, I thought, no, I'm going to throw some mud back. so I just wrote back, I said, if you're ever having trouble going to sleep at night, just watch one of my videos, that might help you.
Sometimes you got to roll with the punches, right? I mean,
you kind of got to almost like laugh at yourself.
Yes.
And
it's a very Australian thing.
Yeah. I've known that, having lived here for 11 years now.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you can kind of find the fun in yourself, then it almost sort of defeats the object of the other person having a go at you.
Yeah.
If you can say, you're right, I'm boring, I'm funny, whatever. And then they're like, oh, okay, that kind of backfired. If you're new to making YouTube and someone puts a bad comment in your video, just give it back to them.
Yeah.
Because you'll feel a lot better too.
Yeah, there's that side of it too.
Because it's almost like then you're sort of saying, don't mess with me sort of thing, but you're not allowing people to sort of bully you type of thing. Because cyberbullying's a horrible thing too.
It is, and I can only imagine what it's like for people that go through it. Because when the internet wasn't a thing, you could kind of escape bullies to an extent. But nowadays, oh my god, I can't even.
It's too easy, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's probably a whole other episode of your podcast.
Yeah, 100%.
With someone who's probably a bit more versed than I am. That's a horrible sort of world to live in.
Indeed.
But cars is good. We like cars.
Yeah, let's stick to cars for a while. But all good. Just conscious of time, we might wrap up this episode here for today. We'll definitely get back on at some point. But before we do you have anyone you would like to shout out who potentially may listen to this when it goes live?
Ooh. Who would I shout out to?
We can just mention a random Ford dealership that supports your endeavours.
One where I work, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for anyone living in the southeast area of Melbourne, maybe in the Berwick area, that might give you enough of a clue of where I work and what I do. Actually, just sort of onto that. I actually do get people come in sometimes at work and recognise me from my videos.
Nice.
Which is quite cool.
Yeah.
Because they'll be talking to me and it's like, are you the bloke in the videos? You can almost see them like the cogs going around in their brain and they're looking at me and they're sort of obviously listening to my voice and it's like, you're the bloke in the videos, aren't you? Yeah, that's me.
Unfortunately.
I actually had a really funny one. A guy I was talking to just about a car, he was saying, I've been watching these videos on YouTube and blah-de-blah. And he said, the bloke looked a bit like you. That's cool, whatever. Because sometimes you can recognise a face and you think you know them. And he said, he sounded a bit like you as well. So, really? That's a strange coincidence. And when I said to him, actually, it's me, and he's like, really? I said, yeah. And I just got my phone out and showed him the YouTube.
Yeah.
And he's like, it is too, isn't it? I think he thought, you see people on YouTube, you never think you're going to meet them.
Yeah.
And he obviously did, and he didn't think he was. So it was quite funny.
He's like, today I met a celebrity. And they're like, what? I met a YouTuber. Oh, yeah.
I had a random... I went to the gym. This was one day last year. And I was just at the gym, doing my workout. And this guy comes up to me. He says, you're Webby, aren't you? I thought, have we met before? And I think, is this a customer of mine? Because like, sometimes I have a blank of customers.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been watching your videos. So, okay, that's where you know me from.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of struck up this whole, every time we was at the gym, he'd come over and have a chat. And it was just a nice kind of mutual sort of love of cars again.
Nice.
So that was quite cool. So it's nice when people, in inverted commas, recognise you.
Yes.
But for a good reason, I suppose.
Yeah, that's kind of the key thing there.
Yeah. I hate it when it's like, my partner, she says, you're an influencer. And so no, I'm not. I don't influence anybody. I just make car videos and whatever.
Yeah. You just educate people.
That's what I try to do, I think.
But is that the same as influencing? I guess that's a whole other debate, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Influence, I suppose it's how you break that term down, isn't it?
Correct.
Influence is in your kind of influencing someone to buy a car.
Which they may not have done already, without the influence. I don't know. But education is, you're still, at the end of the day, the person still has the choice or the power to make the decision themselves. But they just have more information.
Yeah. I kind of view it a little bit like my job. I'm just giving people advice.
Yeah.
Or helping them out.
And they can take it or leave it.
And exactly. They can say, great, thanks for that. That was really good information. Yes, I'm going to go down this route. Or actually, no, that's not for me. And then go in a different direction.
Yep.
Which is cool too, because, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And once you do know, then you can make a decision and off you go in whatever direction you choose to take.
Yep.
But yeah, there's lots of people I can thank for my journey. I hate using that word. You always hear people use, on my journey. It's like, oh God, that sounds so cliche.
But it is also a thing.
It is a thing because, you never get to anywhere without help from other people, do you?
Correct. It's really understood.
Like we were talking about Drive Against Depression earlier, they've been good for me personally for different reasons, not just for the community and that type of thing. It's how we met. We wouldn't have been doing the podcast without that.
Yeah, true.
You meet so many different people through so many different places. There's lots of things to sort of say thank you to. So yeah, definitely they would be good.
Yes.
Drive Against Depression.
Nice.
And yeah, there's a few others, but I'm not going to plug any particular manufacturer.
All good.
We mentioned them already.
Yeah. No worries. Awesome. Thank you for coming on board.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. And good luck with the rest of the year. And I shall listen out for this to come live.
Sounds good. Cool. Take care.
Thanks, brother.